Hello there, I'm Black Bride, and I really wanted to talk to you about the arrest at the carnival. On the grand scheme of, in the grand scheme of things, there was about 420 arrests, I believe, out of 2 million attendees. That translates into just over 0.4%. They say that 266 of those were captured through the live facial recognition cameras. And what the live facial recognition cameras do, if you on their books as a suspect, or they need to pull you in for questioning, or if you're wanted for skipping bail, anything like that, the cameras will definitely pick you out of a crowd. So it was much easier to make arrests this year. The police really could just sit in the vans and just let the van do the job for them without intimidating the crowd with their presence. So it was considered quite successful this year. They reckon it was the most peaceful this year as well. And they attribute it to the facial recognition cameras, the detectors of metal, the metal detectors and stuff like that, and stop and search. So I have a few concerns about the cameras, so I'm going to read from my notes so that I don't forget anything in this short 10-minute span. So I've put here live facial recognition cameras give an insight to your future. 2 million attended the 57th anniversary of Notting Hill Carnival. Met Police say there were 420 arrests, which translates into 0.0423. 0.0423%. And out of that number, 266 people either had police, bail or probation licence conditions not to attend the carnival this weekend, but they attended regardless. 70 were arrested for smoking weed, professionally known as cannabis, and 46 were arrested for possession of an offensive weapon, 44 were arrested for drug supply, and 18 sexual offences and 5 robberies. I make that 449, but hey. So how did the Met make so many arrests this year? Well, Scotland Yard said 52 of this year's total arrests were as a result of identifications using live facial recognition cameras. However, we do not know how many of those was false positive. What do I mean by false positive? Well, the facial recognition cameras, they're about 79% accurate. 21% will give a false positive. They'll identify someone, but that person isn't the person who they thought it was or who they're interested in. I'm not quite sure if the police will let us know whether or not how many there were false arrests. We do not know how many of that 21% room for error, was based on the unreliability of the cameras when it comes to black people, when it comes to women, when it comes to the elderly, when it comes to non-binary people. So, So the Met Assistant Commissioner Matt Ward said the use of live facial recognition metal detectors and stop and search prevented some of the serious violence we have seen in previous years. There were 223 arrests on Monday, the day of the adult parade, and 200 on Sunday. The most common was for cannabis possession. So if you have a run-in with the law, it is possible that you will be picked up on the cameras as a suspect, e.g. for someone wanted for questioning, skip bail to someone who is suspected of a serious crime. So at Notting Hill Carnival this year, the police had been able to sit in their vans and wait for the cameras to alert them of suspects who come within a 75-metre radius. That's about I don't know, 296 feet, somewhere, but somewhere it's wide. Anyway, without having to intimidate carnival goers with fear of their presence, thus giving the crowds a false sense of security, really. So while the Eye Man is burning his spliff, he is oblivious that one, he's being caught on camera, and two, because smoking weed is a cultural phenomena, he forgets that he is actually committing an arrestable crime. So officers are probably alerted to the fact that you've got a few people smoking weed, so they can jump out of their vans, go and nab them and arrest them. So it could be an efficient method of arresting criminals if there wasn't the false positive ratio that I explained earlier. E.g., could 21% of the false positive relate to people of colour, non-binary, women or the elderly, for whom the cameras are less reliable? If the cameras alert the police officers of a suspect, which results in arrest, but the police subsequently learn that the equipment alerted them to the wrong person because of the false positive ratio, would the police be willing to admit the false arrest had been made to the media? Or would they prefer that we believe that 420 legitimate arrests were made? That's just my question. The LFRC, that's the live facial recognition cameras, are going to be a daily part of our lives very soon. And don't think that if you see one, you can scarper, because the cameras capture biometrics from 75 metres. That's nearly 250 feet away. So even though it's less accurate from that distance, but by the time you've seen the van or the signs, you've already been caught on camera. So if you try to avoid the van, you'll be deemed as suspicious, and they could nab you anyway. The same way as if you hide your face, technically, because the facial recognition cameras are considered unlawful, or they haven't been authorised by Parliament. They do say you are allowed to cover your face, but if you do cover your face or conceal your features, the police will call you suspicious and ask you what you're hiding from, and that kind of thing. You'll be deemed as obstructing the course of justice and all that kind of thing. So if you're not wanted, your image is deleted, but most people don't know that. Apparently, they reckon that after it's taken your image, if you're not on the wanted list, or what I say is not wanted list, but let's call it wanted list for the want of a better word, it is meant to delete your photographs without a trace. Don't know how true that is. So the public's fear of live facial recognition cameras are compounded by some members of the police force who are not squeaky clean. So how do we know that the police will follow the protocol and use the facial recognition cameras ethically? While you are allowed to cover your face, I've already said that. The Commander Charmaine Brenier said, our policing plan makes tackling serious violence a priority, which is why we've carried out intelligence-led interventions against those groups and individuals who we have reason to believe pose the greatest threat or risk to the safety of other carnival goers. But there again, what about unconscious bias? What about those people who have perceptions and stereotype? The live facial recognition cameras will most definitely be a significant deterrent for many innocent and guilty, for those who might be planning a crime and for those who do not have a criminal record but who are concerned that they may inadvertently be picked up by the camera because they look like a wanted criminal they have on their books. False positive includes, like I've said, the black females, and since I fall into that category, would I want to be pounced on and arrested and then later on de-arrested? So the police insist on using facial recognition cameras even though it hasn't been authorised by Parliament. So I just hope that someone's overseeing the protocol and making sure it's being used ethically. And I think that's all I've got time for. Bye-bye. Yeah, I think that's